All right, September 12th. It's a Tuesday, and it's 7:31 a.m. in Maui, Hawaii, and the sun is in the third line, moving into the fourth line of gate 47 and 22, and it's moving into the fourth line in like 3 hours. So with this episode, we're going to do both of these lines because we shifted kind of like afternoonish time for us yesterday into line 3. So we'll start with 3, which we are currently in. So line 3 and gate 47 is self-oppression, the conscious and well-integrated being whose natural right action will eventually come to see the unfoundedness of its oppression, the eventual realization that one is okay. I feel like we did this one. Oh, never mind. A self-oppression is the detriment. A self-oppression so highly energized that it may prove irreversible and destructive. Extreme difficulty in realizing one's self-worth.
Sounds like the heart healing and releasing relationships y'all are into exaltation.
Yeah, big
Good
time.
job.
Big time. Yeah, go ahead and read that.
So 6 in the third place means a man permits himself to be oppressed by stone and leans on thorns and thistles. He enters his house and does not see his wife, misfortune. This shows a man who is restless and indecisive in times of adversity. At first he wants to push ahead, then he encounters obstructions that, it is true, mean oppression only when recklessly dealt with. He butts his head against the wall, and in consequence feels himself oppressed by the wall. Then he leans on things that have in themselves no stability and that are merely a hazard for him who leans on them. Therefore he turns back irresolutely and retires into his house, only to find, at a fresh disappointment, that his wife is not there. Confucius says about this line, if a man permits himself to be oppressed by something that ought not to oppress him, his name will certainly be disgraced. If he leans on things upon which he cannot lean, his life will certainly be endangered. For him who is in disgrace and danger, the hour of death draws near. How can he then still see his wife?
Damn. That's like the darkest one we've ever read.
Yeah. But yeah, it's, I mean, you know, you don't want to lean on a wall built out of straw alone, you know, because
that's what I was getting out of it too. Is like,
over.
You know, in terms of looking for support, right? It's like if you're looking for support from something that you ought not to be looking for support from, or something that is not real, like your mind, for instance. Not that it's not real, but something that is not actually solid, you're not going to find support there.
Yep.
And that's okay, right? Because eventual realization is that one is okay. But sometimes oppression is in its entirety, just like confusion or doubt, where it's fully consuming, and the only move that you have is kind of to surrender to it. Now, this being the transits, this is the energy of the scape, right? And the thing that you can then rely on is your strategy and authority. So if you're a projector, taking inventory, what are the invitations right now for me? How is my space inviting me into things? How is the separation inviting me into something? How are the lack of invitations inviting me to something? How is the abundance of invitations inviting me into something? Generators, similar. What can I respond to in this moment? Manifestors, where can I inform? Having this information of oppression, knowing that other people are feeling oppressed, where can I inform? And then a reflector, I just, sit and wait until the moon tells me to move.
Yeah, and this line stuck out to me. He butts his head against a wall and in consequence feels himself oppressed by the wall. Then he leans on things that have in themselves no stability and that are merely a hazard for him who leans on them. So it's like he didn't choose to lean on the thing that was actually supportive, that could support him. He ran into it, butted his head. It's like, fuck this. I'm not going to lean on the thorn and thistle over here, which is going to poke me and fall over, not support me.
And that ultimately is a question of self-worth. Because when you don't question self-worth, right, it's not, maybe you don't even need to lean anything on anything at all. If you are going to lean on something, you're going to lean on something that's strong enough to hold your weight, or you're going to lean on a friend who can actually bear your weight, as opposed to a straw wall. Or I like that, like butting his head against the wall and then feeling oppressed by the wall. So that's a good question. It's like, what are you butting your head against, right? Of your own accord, that is an immovable object, or that is not butting its head against you, that's not actively oppressing you, but where are you making up a oppression in your life?
Yeah. Do we want to read the fourth line of this one, or go to 22?
Let's pair it up. So let's go to 22, and then we'll come back for the fourth lines. I was like thinking about that question. I was like, damn, that's kind of a deep ass question. Okay, so gate 22, line 3 is the enchanter, perfected grace. In the exaltation, we have form as a definition and actualization of substance, the possibility for perfected openness through the alignment of emotional energy and awareness. And then the detriment is unconscious grace and innate openness.
Yeah, there's such a thing as too open.
Right. Perfected openness and emotional style. Which these are my lines. I just remembered. Damn, these are negative as fuck. All right, read this.
Here we go. 9 in the third place means graceful and moist. Constant perseverance brings good fortune. This represents
graceful and moist. That is my essence. Oh, graceful and moist.
It is moist. It's humid.
Yeah.
This represents a very charming life situation. One is under the spell of grace and the mellow mood induced by wine. This grace can adorn, but it can also swamp us. Hence the warning not to sink into convivial indolence, but to remain constant in perseverance. Good fortune depends on this. Do you have any idea what the word convivial means?
I do not have any idea what that. I'll look it up.
Convivial.
Convivial?
Convivial.
Friendly, lively, and enjoyable.
Friendly, lively, and enjoyable. Indolence?
Indolence. How's it these Chinese guys have words we don't even know?
That's English trying to figure out what the fuck the Chinese is
laziness.
Friendly laziness?
Or avoidance. Or activity.
Hence the warning not to sink into friendly laziness, but to remain constant in perseverance.
Oh, so that's just like, yeah, lackadaisical openness.
And constant perseverance. The same sentence is quite an image.
That is really an image.
Sent us off.
It's like mushy. Well, I think about it like in terms of like having porous boundaries, or like, you know, like a boundary line that moves based on who I'm with, versus a boundary line that stays solid. And because it's like, to a degree, like a porous boundary is not a boundary at all. Like if I'm like, don't touch me, but for certain people, I'm like, you can touch me. That's an okay porous boundary. But if there's a porous boundary of like, don't disrespect me, but for certain people, like I let them disrespect me, that's like a porous boundary. You know, that's an inability to uphold a standard, not necessarily an attunement to what's going on and who it's going on with, right? So that's kind of what that brings up. And in a sense of like perfected openness being available, perfected grace, it's like a vigilant openness, right? So for me, I've experienced that in my life of a lot of the times, kind of like being open to the wrong person and realizing like, oh, there's no reciprocity in this openness. Like I'm being so open to this person, and I'm not receiving anything of substance in return for my openness, right? They're not following my guidance. I'm not receiving any income. I'm just like being open and available for this person, because usually it's because I feel sorry for them, or because they're a cute girl and I want to bang. That's just reality of how it's been. Or like I really hope that they'll include me in the business plan later. but I don't have anything like secured in. Hannah, yeah. So we're talking about the current transits. So right now we're talking about gate 22.3, which I'm talking a lot because I always talk a lot, but also because this is my 22.3 is my sun and 47.3 is my my Earth
really?
gate and my conscious. Yeah, I know. We just read 47.3 is like
in the I Ching. It was like, what the fuck?
it was like, don't bang your head against the wall and feel oppressed by the wall, which is, for me, it's caused a lot by my openness and my lack of vigilance with who I'm open with. And I would say in this past couple years, I've definitely closed up a lot to a lot of people and have more of a bullshit filter nowadays.
So does that mean this is like
Because of
the
the third line.
opposite day of your birthday?
Yeah.
Dude, that's cool.
Yeah.
Huh.
Rough,
Love that.
roughly. Because that, they don't
probably
work.
not perfect, but
Yeah.
because it's the opposite. Your sun is 22.3, and the Earth is 47.3, and we're in the opposite.
Yeah.
Damn, that's cool.
Correct. So it's my half birthday.
Yeah, half birthday.
Happy half birthday, Marco. It's like what Alice in Wonderland, where they talk about the unbirthdays. It's like, one day, wait, is your birthday. 364 days that on your unbirthday.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yes, wonderful.
Every day is like a...
I love Alice in Wonderland. I remember watching that show as a kid, and I was like, whoever made this was on drugs. For sure. And I didn't even know what drugs were, but I knew. I knew what that meant. I knew what that meant. I was like, whoever was tweaking on something to write this. So okay, so that's that was today, and probably the last like 23 hours of the day, which is interesting. Let's just say energetically last week was crazy. Venus went direct this, and Jupiter went into retrograde. It's a new moon in Virgo on Thursday, and Mercury go direct Saturday. Yeah, so a lot astrologically happening, for sure, and it makes a lot of sense. There's a lot going on. I mean, we've got one more day till the world ends, or so a lot of the conspiracy theorists say. No, there's just like a lot of talk about like that's another reason why I want to go to Mana and stock up on some food in case tomorrow things actually do shit. Yeah, in case shit actually does hit the fan. It's always good to be stocked up on food, which everyone out there, I know it sounds kind of crazy, but
just be prepared.
Have a big bag of rice, have a big bag of beans and stuff, because a lot of people are looking at tomorrow as being like the start of something. I can't really say what, but it's always better to be prepared rather than starving.
Let me tell you, I went to the End of the World concert in Joplin, Missouri on May 21st, 2011, when it was like, the end of the world's coming. And it was like this End of the World concert where everyone was like, yeah, if we're going to go out, we're going to go out together.
Right.
And obviously the world didn't end. Then the next day, a tornado fucking took the entire city out.
Oh.
So.
Damn.
You never know.
Right.
Be safe.
Yeah.
Prepare.
Be safe, prepare. Awesome. Okay. Now that our message, our PSA has been delivered, let's go back to gate 47. So we're going to
line 4.
We are going to line 4 in like 3-4 hours. So we're going to go ahead and
2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. We're going into line 4. So we're at the tail end of line 3, which is what we just read. And then now we're going into line 4. So line 4 in gate 47, we're going back up to the sun, back up to the ajna, is repression, the constraints of external oppression, and its exaltation, the strength of identity that even in times of the most powerful oppression can maintain its resources and to some extent ensure the survival for the benefit of others. A sense of identity that can be maintained despite external conditioning. Detriment is when robbed of its light, the moon is lost in darkness, barely able to nourish itself, let alone others. The identity overwhelmed by external conditioning.
4 lines.
4 lines.
Talk.
So
opportunities.
Yeah.
Because even when you lose, even if you get identity overwhelmed by external conditioning, like it's saying about the moon losing its light in darkness, the moon's still going to come back.
Right.
no matter what.
Right.
So there's never ending opportunities. So if you fuck up and fail, you can always fail forward and move on to the next step instead of just being like, "Man, I fucking did it again."
Right. And ultimately it's about this gate really is about becoming more aware, realizing the oppression. Like, where does the oppression come from?
Right.
And what we're doing, the difference between the third line and the fourth line in this sense is recognizing that it's external conditioning, or it's like the external world that is seeking to influence the identity. And so this is the fourth line here is where the eyes actually like look into the future and see, okay, you know, what is now going to be the thing that's going to influence me moving forward. It's either going to be my sense of identity, regardless of external conditioning, or it's going to be the overwhelm of identity by external conditioning. So that's and lines 1, 2, and 3 typically are kind of like past focus, and 4, 5, and 6 are more future oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And then we as the vessels are kind of like in the middle.
All right. 9 in the fourth place means he comes very quietly, oppressed in a golden carriage. Humiliation, but the end is reached. A well-to-do man sees the need of the lower classes and would like to spend, or like to. A well-to-do man sees the need of the lower classes and would like very much to be of help, but instead of proceeding with speed and energy where there is need, he begins in a hesitant and measured way. Then he encounters obstructions. Powerful and wealthy acquaintances draw him into their circle. He has to do as they do and cannot withdraw from them. Hence he finds himself in great embarrassment. But the trouble is transitory. The original strength of his nature offsets the mistake he has made, and the goal is reached. So a well-to-do man sees the need of the lower classes and would like to be of help. So he has to like reduce himself, is what it sounds like. To like, maybe this is like a high-class businessman or something, but he's got to go out into the fields and help tend to, the garden or whatever before he can move on and get back to what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like he needs to help with the whole community. How is this?
Well, it was talking about like constraints of external oppression and something about embarrassment among like other rich friends, right?
Yeah.
And so, to me, that kind of sounds like. Just read that again real quick.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
A well-to-do man sees the need of the lower classes and would like very much to be of help, but instead of proceeding with speed and energy where there is need, he begins in a hesitant and measured way. Then he encounters obstructions. Powerful and wealthy acquaintances draw him into their circle. He has to do as they do and cannot withdraw from them.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, he finds himself in great embarrassment.
Right there, that's it. So the wealthy friends draw him into their circle. So rather than acting on, like, responding to the thing that he knows needs to be done, he allows the external conditioning, the people of the same class as him, convince him that because they're the same class, that this is what he's supposed to be doing. So that's where the oppression comes in. Is it's like again, the choice to go against one's own strategy and authority in favor of basically choosing oppression based off of the. It's so funny. I sent a gift to Emerald last night that was Dumbledore saying we choose between the choice that is right and the choice that is easy, or something like that. Yeah. I was trolling my partner so hard last night. I set her up to play Xbox up in her room, and she was making a Starfield character. She was like, which traits should I choose? And I just kept finding perfect Harry Potter gifts to like send her to just troll on her. And that was one of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, choosing between what's right and choosing between what's easy, because, again, that's going to be highlighted today, especially with all the astrological stuff going on. The external conditioning, the mind, and whatever grooves you've created in your life. For some of you that are only like a year or two into your deconditioning, a year or two into the human mind, there's probably a lot of things in your life, unless you've totally moved away from everything, broken up with your girlfriend, done all this stuff. Unless you've like really made some drastic changes, there's a good chance that a lot of people in your life are still like the grooves are still there in your brain, right? And so a lot of that external conditioning can still pull you into, just like in the I Ching, right? This wealthy man who sees people in need, like Oprah, right? Or The Rock, or whoever, right?
Jason Momoa.
Yeah. Well, Jason Momoa called Oprah out.
Yeah, because he's getting called out. He's getting called out.
Is he really?
Yeah.
What's going on with his ass?
We can talk about
Come
it.
on, Jason Momoa.
Questionable.
All of that, and that's the thing of those. Like, it's really hard to know like which celebrities are actually questionable, because everyone that achieves some kind of glory, you know, someone's not gonna like them, right?
Exactly.
And so, anyway, side note, follow your strategy and authority. Great. All right, let's move. Okay, 22.4 is sensitivity. It's the modification of behavior to enrich interactions. Exaltation is a mediumistic simplicity that rejects elaborate rituals, the possibility of social openness, all through the rejection of formality. Detriment is an over-reliance on the mechanics of style that can abort potentially significant relationships. The limitation of social openness through the need for formality. Well, I watched a video yesterday of this like Muslim dude talking to this British girl, and she went to shake his hand, and he was like, "Oh no, I don't shake hands." And she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you anymore." And he goes, "Wait, why?" And she's just like, "Because that's offensive." And then she like walked away, and he was like, "This is a perfect example. I'm happy she did this, because she's illustrating this bigotry that she is claiming to stand against. That is basically, if you offend me, that we can't have conversation." And that's like the detriment of this line, which is like needing the formality and aborting potentially fruitful relationships because there is no formality. So because there is no introduction, or because there is no coat of arms, or like entrance, or it doesn't have the traditional format of formality, one might be inclined to completely disavow the relationship in general, as opposed to this adaptability and simplicity that rejects the elaborate rituals. And I can definitely, even though I'm a third line in this, I definitely feel this alive in me. I'm like, I don't need the formality. And in a way, I kind of like reject a lot of the formality type stuff, because I think it gets in the way a lot of the times. I think the formality, and a lot of times, is helpful for some people to give them a path to walk on. But then for the people who understand why the path is being walked, and sometimes they're starting not on the path, there's no sense in like walking all the way down to the crosswalk to cross the road when there's no cars, and the thing you want is right across the road. Like, you could just jaywalk, right? Yeah. So heretic.
That just reminds me of just the conversations that we had last night. You know, there was a lot of like felt need of formality coming from one person.
Yeah.
And then you were just fuck formality.
Exactly.
Saying the way I do it, because that's the way I know.
Right.
Exactly. That's the way that works for you.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And also it's like, yeah, if I'm going to be offering you reflections, this is how it works for me. Like, you're wanting to help me, but like, I don't actually need help. I don't want to do any of that stuff, because I don't need to do any of that stuff. Like, I don't need a method. My method is to sit there and reflect.
Just be you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm special. I actually will adhere to myself. I'm not going to be overwhelmed by the external conditioning.
That's right.
But anyway, line 4.
All right. 6 in the 4th place means grace or simplicity. A white horse comes as if on wings. He is not a robber. He will woo at the right time. An individual is in a situation in which doubts arise as to which is better, to pursue the grace of external brilliance, or to return to simplicity. The doubt itself implies the answer. Calm formation comes from the outside. It comes like a white-winged horse. The white color indicates simplicity. At first, it may be disappointing to renounce comforts that might have been obtained, Yet one finds peace of mind in a true relationship with the friend who courts him. The winged horse is the symbol of the thoughts that transcend all limits of space and time. White winged horse. This makes me think of Deftones.
I did not think you were going to say Deftones.
Got that White Pony album or whatever, right?
I was thinking about Hercules and the Pegasus.
Hercules. Oh, yeah.
And Perseus. That whole, like, you know, kind of just like seemingly random dude ends up killing the Gorgon and like saving the princess and in the middle of the Clash of the Titans kind of thing. But the leaving the comforts behind is like, that's the thing about tradition is because, and this is like an actual parallel on the macro scale of like what's going on with the cross of planning and all the infrastructure that we've relied on to, like, grocery stores bring our food to us, you know, the mail system brings mail to us. And so, you know, just understanding that, you know, we're at the tail end of that infrastructure being on such a large scale, being reliable. And so what are the new businesses, infrastructures that are going to be able to resist the cross of planning dying and the sleeping phoenix awakening?
Can we go back to owls delivering letters, ravens, and birds? That would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like, because that's the thing, like, right? Like, if you look at that, the energy of that, you would have to have someone who takes care of those animals, that finds great satisfaction in taking care of those animals and loves them to the point that they're able to be trained and do the tasks that they want, and to be able to take care of that person, feed them, house them, do all that stuff. Because the thing is, like, it's not that the bargains aren't going to matter anymore. It's just the bargains that don't matter aren't going to matter, right? Like paying taxes. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that you pay taxes to that you don't get to choose what it gets delegated towards, right? So it could be going towards something that you really disagree with on a moral value standpoint. And that in it is the fault of the old infrastructure, which means it's like, you know, it's really interesting because I think there's going to be people that go deeper into infrastructure using technology. And then there's going to be people that like free themselves from infrastructure using technology.
Yeah.
Definitely. And it's going to be the same. They're going to be using the same thing, just in a different style of it, right? Like some people are going to go Wally level. They got like the little, you know, they're going to have a chip in their brain. Yeah. And then like we might also have chips in our brains, but we're still going to be doing shit that's like meditating in the garden and doing kung fu. Whereas the other people are just like, oh, I'll just do it in virtual reality. It really, what it comes down to is like, is it happening in your body or is it happening in your mind? Right? Because the awakening of the sleeping phoenix is one where it's like you're either going to wake up in your physical body or you're going to wake up in the metaverse. And if you wake up in the physical body, you can still wake up in the metaverse. But if you wake up in the metaverse before you wake up in the body, it's going to be much harder to wake up in the body because you'll think that the metaverse is real. Which that's coming quick. That's coming real quick, which I'm actually so stoked about. Like, imagine if we could all just put VR goggles and we're all just sitting like around a waterfall and we're having tea in transits like that.
That'd be super cool.
I'm so stoked for that because for me, then that's going to make it even more important that I start to infuse, you know, more of the physical stuff into this. Or we could all put our VR goggles on Luke's dojo, and he can like teach everyone kung fu.
That's right.
This conversation right as Apple is doing their live event. Oh yeah, are they releasing stuff? That's crazy.
Sal gave me PTSD.
What is Sal?
SAO.
SAO?
What is Sal?
Sword Art Online. Oh yeah. That was scary, bro. That was a good one. Onion. Hey.
Onion, what's up?
It's just like a low-key celebrity. I love it. I didn't even realize it was Onion that said the conversation about Apple was earlier. But yeah, Sword Art Online is like, for those of you guys that have never seen that, that's an anime about like the first episode. Everyone's stoked about this new game, and it's like a full deep dive anime or game, you know, and everyone puts their goggles on and they're like playing the game, and then it's like dinner time, so everyone's like done playing the game, and the log out button is on.
Yeah,
And then there's like this like guy that
Black
appears, and
Mirror.
he's like, I created this game, and you have to get through like 99 levels, and if you die here, then it'll microwave your brain, and if you try and take the headset off, it'll microwave your brain. Good luck. People are like, what the fuck? And so they basically have to live their entire lives in the game, and it's nuts. Bye, Ella.
Bye.
Have a good class.
Enjoy.
But yeah, so that's the thing is like, right, and it's the crazy part about it is like, if you build enough in the metaverse, there will be no reason for anyone to take their headset off, right? Yeah, and he woke up with a vegetable body. Yeah, this is an intense show for sure, because we got 47.3. I'm banging my head against this wall of oppression over here. I'm like pissed I've never read that in the I Ching before, because I've read this before. Yeah. 47.3, like self-oppression, and I'm like, oh, cool. That's, I can get down with that. A difficulty in realizing self-worth. Like, yeah, I resonate with that. And then now it's reading that one, and I'm like, oh, leaning on straw walls and banging my head against shit, and then saying that that's oppressing me. It's like, that's happened a lot in business, where I'm like, why aren't you paying me more? And they're like, well, you never asked. And also, we don't actually need you. And I'm like, damn it. You're right. So I've had to take a big step back and be like, who actually wants me? And who actually, also, not who needs me, but who actually wants me, and who's going to create space, and who's going to provide the reciprocity.
Yeah. You also never read that Graceful and Moist line. 22.
Oh, no, I never read that Graceful and Moist line. That was a good one. That was a really good one. All right. Well, should we I Ching it? Cool. All right. So now comes the time of the show where we're going to throw some coins, and we're going to create a hexagram for us, just as like a general reading.
Yin. Greater yin. Yin.
Yin.
Got earth on bottom. Yang.
We should place bets on it. Yang.
Greater yang. Yin.
That's it. Yep.
Okay.
So we got
earth.
Lake over earth.
Correct. Earth. Lake. 45. Gathering together.
No way.
C5. Got this channel, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So yesterday we pulled 21, which is
Fighting
the
through.
harmonic.
Oh, what? That's true.
Oh.
Oh. Fuck. Right, 45. Sweet. Gathering together. Massing. The judgment. Gathering together. Success. The king approaches his temple. It furthers one to see the great man. This brings success. Perseverance furthers. To bring great offerings creates good fortune. It furthers one to undertake something. The gathering together of people in large communities is either a natural occurrence, as in the case of the family, or an artificial one, as in the case of the state. The family gathers about the father as its head. The perpetuation of this gathering in groups is achieved through the sacrifice to the ancestors, at which the whole clan is gathered together. Through the collective piety of the living members of the family, the ancestors become so integrated in the spiritual life of the family that it cannot be dispersed or dissolved. Where men are to be gathered together, religious forces are needed, but there must also be a human leader to serve at the center of the group. In order to be able to bring others together, this leader must first of all be collected within himself. Only collective moral force can unite the world. Such great times of unification will leave great achievements behind them. This is the significance of the great offerings that are made. In the secular sphere, likewise, there is need of great deeds in the time of gathering together.
Hmm.
The image. Over the earth, the lake, the image of gathering together. Thus the superior man renews his weapons in order to meet the unforeseen. If the water in the lake gathers until it rises above the earth, there is danger of a breakthrough. Precautions must be taken to prevent this. Similarly, where men gather together in great numbers, strife is likely to arise. Where possessions are collected, robbery is likely to occur. Thus, in the time of gathering together, we must arm promptly to ward off the unexpected. Human woes usually come as a result of unexpected events against which we are not forearmed. If we are prepared, they can be prevented. That reminds me of the stories that I've heard from my kung fu masters about how, people would come to the Shaolin temples and just give them gifts, give them gold, give them weapons, give them all these things. And the monks were like, well, we don't need any of this stuff. So they just had a room or rooms full of all of these things. And they're just like, okay, cool. Like they are so collected of themselves that they're like, we don't need all of these material objects. So then people would come to rob the temples and they'd be like, yeah, just take whatever you want, like we don't care as long as you're not trying to take our lives, because then we're going to have to fight you. It's just like being collected. Like that's what I'm getting from this, is being collected self enough to not like be worrying about what's coming at you. Just being prepared in the moment for anything that can happen. Because if we are prepared, they can be prevented.
Right. Like at some point they started defending it, the treasure, didn't they?
Not that I can remember in any story.
Because I'm like, I mean, for me, the moral dilemma there is if you let evil people steal the treasure, then they go out and they breed war and treachery and more evil with the treasure. And so it's like the monks that let them take the treasure. It's almost like how do you say? Right, it's what is it? A double-edged sword, or a catch-22. That's what it is. Catch-22, because like for me, it's like if we were, collecting and gathering treasure, and this is part of the tithing piece, is like if we're gathering treasure, then we have to like cut it up and divide it, because too much treasure in one place breeds an illness, or it attracts evil, right? And that's not something that we want either. So yeah, what's going on over here? Take whatever you can, just close the door on your way out and turn off the light. Becoming our own sovereign being is the age we are stepping in. Yeah, pretty much. And so it's like in sovereign beings, understanding that we can't live in a vacuum, or we can't do it. We can do it. It sucks. It's really hard. And so one thing that has been very apparent to me is establishing communities, and then communities around those communities, in the sense that there's a level of priority of the people that I'm willing to feed and willing to take care of. And if the communities around me also have those priorities set up, then they'll be well taken care of and well fed and well defended, and they won't have to come and try and take from my community. And so that's where the smaller tribes makes more sense. And having, I care about my family, and because I care about my family, that creates an inherent care for your family. Because if you're my neighbors and you're not taken care of, well, then you're going to come over to my property and my land and try and take from us.
True.
So there's totally enough for all of us.
More than enough.
And it demands that we are like basically focused on the right thing. Right. And even right now, I'm like looking at my yard like, oh, okay, I got a lot of lilikoi and papaya and stuff, but I need more vegetables. I need more shit, bro.
And just the other day was in Hana, and the lady at Coconut Glens was, there's enough food that falls and rots on the ground that could feed the entire island 3 times over. So if we just utilize the resource that's already there, we wouldn't really have to like do it.
What if we just go live? What if we just pull life tenders and just do like trips to Hana, or like collect a bunch of fallen fruit and then go distribute it, like, or just give it to Hungry Heroes.
Right.
But we could just take trips to Hana, just go collect fruit.
100%.
That's a good
I'm
vibe.
about
Let's
that.
do that. Let's bring that up to later today.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, we got a meeting at 5. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, what's this other hexagram?
40.
40. Oh, community.
Deliverance. Fruitra people. Okay. 40 is CA, deliverance. It is the image of thunder thunder above water. Deliverance. The southwest furthers. If there is no longer anything where one has to go, return brings good fortune. If there is still something where one has to go, hastening brings good fortune. This refers to a time in which tensions and complications begin to be eased. At such times, we ought to make our way back to ordinary conditions as soon as possible. This is the meaning of the Southwest. These periods of sudden change have great importance. Just as rain relieves atmospheric tension, making all the buds burst open, so a time of deliverance from burdensome pressure has a liberating and stimulating effect on life. One thing is important, however. In such times, we must not overdo our triumph. The point is not to push on farther than is necessary. Returning to the regular order of life as soon as deliverance is achieved brings good fortune. If there are any residual matters that ought to be attended to, it should be done as quickly as possible, so that a clean sweep is made and no retardations occur. Yeah, it's so like, not overdoing the triumph. So that would be like, not trying to go out to Hana and collect so much that it all just, rots in our hands or in Hungry Heroes' hands or in the people's hands. Just getting enough and knowing where to disperse it and give it to people who actually are really in need. So that's where teams can unite.
Right. Which that's
and have an effective deliverance.
Exactly. So like us or you who has a good relationship with them, bring that forward so that we're the people that go get the fruit, and then maybe a handful of other people are able to get the fruit, and then that we deliver it so that the people, so that's the over glorified triumph is like us wanting to deliver it and be seen delivering it to everybody.
Yeah.
Which I don't feel energy to do.
Energy.
So just to right, but to just have like certain nodal points that you hit it there and then it gets distributed, hit it there and then it gets distributed. It's like one guy in the circle.
It's a good a good connection. One there, there's already farms that are doing Momona over on the west side. They're growing tons of stuff, getting that delivered down. Same thing with I can't remember the other farms, but they're using army trucks to go pick up loads and loads of stuff that's being freshly grown here on the islands and bringing it. It's happening. It's just how do we utilize the literal food source of the entire island that has been there for thousands of years and been able to feed the entire island on its own.
Right.
If it's just utilized correctly. Yeah.
Big moves. Big moves, little steps. All right, guys. Anything else?
No.
Cool. Love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. So again, that was 3 and 4. So we're moving into 4 in probably 2 hours now. And so maybe we'll come on tomorrow and do line 5 or something.
That's a great gift.
Bye, guys. Love you. Peace.